Well, if you have ever said that you are a good coach, but I suck at marketing, I'm a good coach, but I suck at marketing, then this one is for you. Hello, my name is Amanda Kaufman, and welcome. And I'm so excited that you're here. This one is for you. Exactly. So, we're going to use your coaching skills today to help you with your marketing, with your sales, with your client acquisition, your client retention, doing a great job. And hey, I know exactly what you feel like because I remember early on in my business, I was like, I just want to be a coach. I don't want to have to learn how to market. I don't want to have to learn how to sell. I don't like it, just seems all very complicated. I just want to coach. That was a plea that I had into the night as I lay awake, really worried that I'd made a huge mistake investing in not one but two coaching certifications. And here's the real truth. You don't need to become a marketer. And when I think of like a marketer, I'm thinking like this is somebody who doesn't have a lot of substance behind what they're selling. They're just giving me magic words, they're making it look really sexy, but there's no substance behind what they're doing. You don't have to be one of those people. But you do need to start using some of the coaching skills that you already have to start getting some real results for people. Because let's remember why we do this. As a coach, we're doing this to be able to have greater impact, to be able to do work that is more aligned to our genius zone, to be able to basically create like the lifestyle and the freedom that we want to have. And part of a big significant part of that lifestyle is actually enjoying what it is that you do for a living. So, if we haven't met before, by the way, why should you listen to me? Well, I have sold multiple millions in coaching and group coaching. I have two coaching certifications, like I mentioned before. But more than that, I've helped so many other coaches get out of their own way and start helping real human beings, real people. And so today, I really want to work with you on a couple of things. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at your mindset because I can say everything you need to know about the tactic set, the strategy set, the skill set, the team set, the tool set. But if your mindset is still, I just want to be a coach, and you're not going to be open to anything else that I say, then what are we even doing here? And by the way, if you can see me and hear me okay, shout a Y in the chat so that I know that my mic test was successful. Oh, I picked a really bad necklace today. The sun's coming straight into my office, so I might blind you from time to time. I hope that's okay with you. Awesome. I'm glad it's working. Okay, cool. So, selling. What is it? What's selling? Well, selling is not about convincing people. It's actually about clarifying, and it's clarifying their goals, and it's clarifying the suitability of you two working together. Because I mean, who here wants to work with a jerk, in an intimate coaching session, spend 12 hours with this person? Probably not, right? So for you, selling is really about clarifying whether this person is coachable, whether this person is committed to their goals, whether this person is going to be receptive to your coaching. Like, selling is as much as for you as it is for the prospect to decide whether to buy. And if you realize that selling is simply about clarity, it's about clarifying, it's a clarifying conversation, there can be a lot of safety in that conversation. So what do I mean by safety? Well, when we don't feel like we're doing a good job with sales or we're not doing a good job with marketing, then it feels awkward. It feels unaligned. You lose your words, you lose your momentum. But if you know exactly what it is that you mean to say and you know exactly what the goal of the conversation is, you can let the conversation unfold and you don't have to be attached to whether somebody is going to be a yes or a no. Today I'm talking about using your coaching skills to build your business. And the thing is that not everybody's going to find that interesting. In fact, most people probably won't, but my perfect person, they probably will. Right? The perfect person that I'd love to work with, that I'd love to serve, that I've solved all these problems for, I'm literally calling them in with an invitation based on something that is appropriate for them, right? Like the challenges that they face, the goals and aspirations that they have. So marketing is not really about manipulation. So you remember I was saying earlier, like you don't have to be a marketer. You do have to market your business, but shouldn't be a manipulation. It's really an invitation, and it's an invitation that people can ignore at any time. It's an invitation that people can opt out of at any time. And in today's kind of modern world, I think there's a lot of surrender to, this is on my social media feed. Oh, my inbox is overflowing. Oh, this and oh, that. But that's your space. You can unsubscribe from anything at any time, right? And I encourage you to do it. But if it's something that is actually helping you, if it's something that is aligned to your particular goals, those emails, those social posts, those invitations to live streams can be some of the most important things in your life right now, because you are actively and proactively wanting to solve what we call the problem of appropriate magnitude. So the problem of appropriate magnitude for my clients is that they have all these qualifications and abilities as a coach, but they're having a hard time bridging to having a steady stream of clients. So I love helping with that, because a coach who has a lot of clients is a coach that's going to have a lot of impact. And a coach that's able to sustain the message because they are financially successful is a coach that gets to stay in the game and have some real influence. The people who give up because they don't know what to do, or they give up because they don't believe it's going to work, or they give up because they were really just in it for the paycheck anyway, and they weren't really in it for any kind of a motivating reason beyond that, then, like, I feel like that's a natural attrition. And when you look at the coaching industry, 80% of coaches give up within 2 years. So I've been in this business for 8. What do you think is the big difference, right? Shout out alignment in the chat if you are hearing what I'm saying. It's not about chasing down leads, but it's also not about shirking your responsibility around visibility. I said it on a Monday, right? Like, so many coaches come to me and they're like, oh, I don't know where to post. I don't know what to say. In the beginning, post, just do it. Just turn the camera on and go live. And I know that sounds crazy, but 8 years ago, that's exactly the kind of thing I was doing. Because when you very first start, there's no one that's going to be able to tell you like every bell and whistle of the technology or every possibility of outcome. And if you stay frozen in that fear, you never find your voice and you never find out what actually works for you and works for them. So if you happen to be with us in the Clients Over Chaos community, you can shout out DWM in the DMs. If you're watching this on Instagram, you want to catch the replay later. But I'm going to show something on my screen for the Clients Over Chaos group that really helped me to connect the dots of why coaching is the ultimate superpower when it comes to your marketing and sales. So here it is. Let's see if I can do this. All right, if you see my screen, shout out why in the chat, just so that I know that it actually worked. And on Instagram, I'm sorry, you won't be able to see this. So what I have on the screen is I have two circles, the zone of genius and the zone of commitment. And the truth is awesome, it is working. Yay. Okay, I am fancy this week. I'm getting fancier every week, y'all. Stay tuned. Be in the Clients Over Chaos group. It gets fancier. So your zone of genius is what you're really good at as a coach. So shout out in the chat, like, what are you really good at as a coach? What do you have particular talent in, particular interest in, particular capability in? That's your zone of genius. And the thing is that if you've ever felt like no one cares, or rather a very few people who are just like you seem to care, but you're having a hard time translating that genius to strangers, I'm going to explain to you in this graphic exactly why. The reason why is because your perfect person, your perfect prospect, has this zone of commitment. So if you imagine I'm doing this for Instagram, if you have the one circle that is the zone of genius, you have the other circle that is the zone of commitment. Well, if you're talking about your genius, but it's not aligned to someone else's commitment, and commitment being like commitment to change, commitment to getting out of pain, commitment to driving towards a dream. If you're talking about some nerdy aspect of your genius that's not applicable to the particular problem or commitment that the person wants to solve for, then it's going to feel like you're screaming into the void. Right? Shout out void if you got that super, super clear. So what's the trick? The trick is or it's not really a trick. The reality is there's this zone of overlap between the zone of genius and the zone of commitment. And I call this the zone of collaboration. This is where other people can benefit from your genius specifically to solve a problem of appropriate magnitude that they already have and they already are putting energy and thought towards. But it's like you're a tool or a strategy or a contribution to overall commitment goal. So they don't need to know everything that you know. They don't need to be excited by everything that you're excited by. And you don't have to talk about your entire range and zone of genius, every single story you've ever had or every single moment that you've ever experienced. You just need to identify what is my particular zone of genius and how does that line up to a problem of appropriate magnitude that someone is committed to. So how do you know somebody's committed to the goal? The way you know somebody's committed to the goal is that they have put money towards it somehow. So maybe they're buying books, buying courses, hiring other coaches, joining masterminds, going to seminars. Like their behavior is showing that they care about that goal and that outcome. And notice I said their behavior. That's the biggest and strongest indicator that you've chosen a problem of appropriate magnitude. Now, by the way, you're not looking for a unicorn here. I have a new podcast episode coming out very soon talking about niching. If you're not following me on the Amanda Kaufman Show, make sure you do, because there's an episode that's going to be coming out that's talking all about this unicorn avatar problem. So what a lot of coaches will do is they'll be like, well, I like this little tiny, very specific situation that only applies to very specific and unique people that I also conveniently cannot find. And that's exactly what happens when we have a unicorn avatar. The other challenge is that you're trying to solve the whole world. So I know a lot of coaching programs, they position the certification as you can apply coaching to anything. And the reason why they're doing that is because they want your buy-in that the coaching is going to be really, really powerful. But the business reality is that as a very small business owner, as a solopreneur, you cannot afford to chase down being excellent in the messaging around all of the different possible things that you could do with your coaching. It is a much better and more leveraged strategy for you to become known for something, known for working with a particular population of people to solve a particular problem. When you do that positioning, it makes your marketing and your sales downstream so much easier. And also your coaching experience becomes a lot easier because you start hearing the same challenges over and over and over again. You start learning what it is that actually helps people to overcome those challenges versus complain and stay stuck in those challenges. So I think of coaching certifications as an excellent starting point to a coaching career, but it's like 5% tops of what's going to make you successful. And I genuinely mean that. Like what really makes you successful is coaching lots of people. And one of the biggest obstacles that a lot of coaches have is they're just not talking to very many people. So if this makes a lot of sense, shout out genius in the chat. You already have a genius that is helping people. So one of the big ahas I had was that my coaching is a service. And there's the pre-service, and then there's the service itself, and then there's the post-service. So I hope this is kind of helpful for you to kind of realize that marketing is simply an extension of your coaching. Marketing is simply an extension of your coaching. So like if you watch me do a live stream, you probably noticed that it's still applicable even if you're a client. Like I've looked down at Instagram a couple times. I've had clients like pop in and check it out. I've got some clients in the chat right now, right? So your free content is going to be interesting to your clients. But so this is like the core service is a coaching program, right? Or the course or the membership. That's the core service. The pre is your marketing to get people to invite into that process. But there's also a bit of a post service. So I've had people, tune back into my marketing and stay in touch like after our programs are over. And like, that's amazing. Right. And I realized like, oh, my marketing is actually helping with maintaining relationships over the long term, because a lot of marketing strategies are going to teach you to kind of churn and burn the leads. You know what I mean by that? Like getting the interest of people and then like pushing as hard as you can to sell. And then if you don't sell, then you never speak to the person again. That is, it turns out, the most inefficient way to build a viable expert-based business. A much more viable way to build an expert-based business is using something that I call community leadership, community-based marketing. Community-based marketing, by the way, I first learned how to do it through clients and community. Sadly, they're they're no longer in business as clients and community, but they really taught me the value of moving out of being a coach who's chasing clients or chasing conversions to a coach who is a leader of a community. And there's different tiers to that community. So the most uppermost tier is for sure my private clients, right? Like they're getting most of my attention, the most of my assets, the most of my resources. They get, that's also the like most profitable thing that I do. But there's only a very few people like that. And my calendar limits how many people I can take. So I have other tiers that are still really incredible, especially for the investment that you make with them. And what I realize is if I as a coach stopped looking at it as like I'm Elmer Fudd running through the forest, the Looney Tunes character trying to catch that wascally rabbit, like this one-to-one chase game sucks. It just sucks. And actually last year I got some coaching to go back to that and it did work, but it was so exhausting and I was so capped on my ability to have growth. It just didn't end up being very value aligned to just constantly do that. But I have to acknowledge that when you're getting your first funnel off the ground or you're getting a system of client acquisition off the ground, it's so important that you don't just build something that is just like on the nose trying to get the client. You think of it more of an ecosystem, okay? So when you look at it as an ecosystem, then you realize that the core service that's being paid for is, of course, the main event, but then your marketing and sales are all about what happens before and after. And so that's the first thing. The second thing that I want you to know is that when you are working with somebody as a coach, you're always asking powerful questions. You're listening for the unsaid. You're creating like this clarity in the conversation. That's very much the role of your marketing, is you're actually adding a lot of clarity to the conversation of transformation in the marketing. And then of course in the program, it's like the program is for the people who are ready to really roll up their sleeves and actually do the work, right? So I think of it kind of like this. Your investment that you're getting people to make is roughly correlated. So approximately equal to, that's what this sign means, approximately equal to the commitment that people are willing to make. Okay, so the investment is approximately equal to the commitment that people make. So in my business, I have private coaching that is, of course, very expensive. I have group coaching, which is an investment, but not prohibitive. I've got courses that are very reasonably priced. And I've got a membership that is extremely reasonably priced. But if I sell the membership expecting somebody to have the same level of follow through and commitment as a private client, that's not usually the case. Usually people who pay attention. Have you guys heard that? Shout out pay in the chat if you've ever heard that. If you're coaching somebody and you're like, I'm scared to charge, or I'm scared to have a fair pricing for my coaching based on market realities as opposed to my emotions, then you're actually denying somebody the capacity to invest in themselves. Now, can you take this too far? Yes, absolutely. How do you take this too far? Well, you take it too far by selling too much to the wrong person who didn't have the discretionary income to actually afford it, right? So there's a responsibility that you have to qualifying the person that, like, is this their last dollar that they're ever going to get access to? Or is this an investment that they're conscious of that they are making? Now, I've had people do wild things to be able to invest in my programs because their commitment was super, super high. They would do things like sell a boat that was just, gathering dust on their property, or they've come back and had their mother give them the program as a birthday gift, right? Like there's some crazy stuff that people have done to be able to invest in my program. And I really believe, what's in your wallet is none of my business. But I also think that where people get really queasy is when they're pitching huge offers that require that discretionary income and they feel bad. So I think the other thing is that your coaching is all about connection. And one of the things that a lot of people tell me is like, I don't want to market and sale because I don't want to chase people. You're a coach. Coaching is very much about accountability and connection. And so while you do want to follow up and you do want to be patient with people and you do want to have mechanisms for people to work with you and to reply back, that is really important. But just remember this. People can unsubscribe from your stuff anytime. There's a link right at the bottom of every single email. They can unfollow you. They can simply elect not to come. You're not chasing somebody in the sense that they are going to be so mad, right? That you show up in their inbox or you show up in their social feed or you show up somewhere that they opted in to be, right? So I think sometimes we think, oh, I'm chasing and nagging a friend. And it's like, well, don't your friends want to connect and talk to you? Don't you want to know the news of your friends? Right? Like it's a nutty conversation. But as a coach, you are good at connecting with people. I'm going to say that again a little louder for the people in the back. As a coach, you are very good at connecting with people. This whole, I don't want to chase them. What you're really saying is you don't want to interrupt them. You don't want to interrupt them. So you don't want to interrupt by pinging their inbox, or you don't want to interrupt by making the phone call, or you don't want to interrupt by, showing up in their social feed when they were just there for cat videos, right? And I'm saying like the difference maker is when you access that part of yourself that is so good at connecting and coaching calls and you just put it on video. You put it in the live stream, you put it in the emails, you put it in the webinar, you put this desire to connect and you trust other people to hit unsubscribe or to tell you they don't want it. You trust other people to communicate that because you're already really good at connection. Here's the reality. It's an ugly reality, but you got to know it. If you're sending an email, say once a week these days as a coach, and it's like they first get on your list, they hear from you, and then they never hear from you for like a week or another 2 weeks or a month from now because you're working up all this courage to chase them, you've missed a huge amount of connection opportunity, right? They want to connect with somebody who understands their problems. They want to connect with someone who understands their dreams. They want to connect with somebody who understands where they are getting super stuck. And you conflating the idea that you're making yourself available, you're reminding them that they opted in, you're reminding them of the challenges that they face, and you're solving them, right? Like if you send emails that actually solve mindset problems, actually solve like giving tips and strategies, share like what kind of habits and routines that you have to be successful or that you found work best for your clients, you're going to find your unsubscribe rate is super low and your open rate can go really high if you're adding something that's of value. And if you're inviting them to say, hey, like if this is really good for you, I've got something else that's even going to help you even more. That's not chasing people. That's inviting and connecting the dots. So, let me know if that little reframe was really helpful. Shout out for the reframe. Because I got some specific strategies for you to be able to have more people come towards you in your marketing and just realize like your coaching makes you already very good at this. So the first thing to apply your coaching skills is ask better questions. Right? Ask curious questions in your content to create conversation. Now, I see a lot of people posting questions, but they ask really hard questions. So notice how I said ask better questions. So what's a better question? Better questions are yes and no's. Better questions are this or that. Better questions are very easy to answer because you've got to remember that on social media, most people are there for a mindless dopamine hit. They're not really there to have like a very deep and philosophical conversation. That being said, another example of better questions is, are you asking questions that make the person answering them look good? Or are you asking them questions that are going to make them reveal in front of all of their friends and family their greatest struggles, their greatest challenges, their greatest insecurities? One of the reasons why coaches are not as successful with marketing and sales is they ask too private of a question too publicly or too soon in the relationship. What you need is rapport. And so questions can help you build rapport, but it's the particular timing of specific types of questions that help you build that rapport. Is this making sense? Shout a Y in the chat if this is making like a lot of sense, okay? I haven't been scrolling. Okay, there we go. I'm good, good, good. Awesome, awesome. Okay, so ask better questions that get and elicit a response. And yes, you can keep it on topic, but you can also keep it off topic. So, a question I asked on my social media recently is pineapple on pizza, yes or no? Well, that's actually a pretty good question, right? Because it shows like in my brand, I want people to associate me with being, smart but lighthearted, right? So if I'm asking about pizza every now and again, it's a casual conversation starter that I would probably ask in a normal human environment anyway. And like that's actually a better question because people are not going to feel bad or, embarrassed to reveal that they do or don't like pineapple, right? So ask better questions, get better at asking the right question in the right timing in your relationships, and you will have a huge lead of flows and so on because people like answering questions. Okay. So that's tip number one. Tip number two, many people are super scared of objections. They're scared that people are going to say, oh, it's too expensive. Oh, it takes too much time. Oh, the timing is bad. Oh, I don't know about coaching. I don't know if I believe you, right? Coach, you are literally trained in helping people to navigate their challenges and their obstacles. And I've found time and time again that when somebody says to me, I don't have time, then I ask them, I'm like, okay, cool, get it that you don't have time, but you just also said that you wanted this outcome and this goal. So I'm curious, how long have you been struggling with this outcome and goal? And I'm just like coaching around it. And if it turns out that they've spent 4 years to do something that they should have been able to accomplish in a few weeks, it's like, oh, well, what do you think has really been standing in the way apart from time? And it turns out that they're getting a lot of conflicting advice from people. They're not sure which path to follow. And when I ask, like, well, what do you think is the best path to follow based on what you know so far? They're like, oh, well, actually, I really like XYZ. And I'm like, cool. So coaching to objections is literally your job. So being scared that they're going to say the time, oh, the money, oh, this, oh, that, right? You're literally fearful of your role as a coach. Because I cannot tell, okay, here's truth time, because I've spent a lot of time doing high performance coaching. I've spent a lot of time doing coaching, business coaching, spent a lot of time doing a lot of coaching. Coaching sessions by their very nature are about navigating the objections people have to their own success. Think about it. Think about it. It's like what is a limiting belief? It's an objection, right? It's an objection. When somebody is not accessing their creativity or their courage, what is that? It's an obstacle. It's an objection, right? So shout out an O in the chat if you realize, oh, I should be specifically engaging these conversations. And when you combine it with asking better questions, so one better question might be, would you be open to talking about that? Consent. Oh my God. Nobody teaches this, but like the consent to have the conversation opens the possibility for being able to actually navigate those challenges. You see this? Like how marketing and sales is essentially an extension of your coaching, right? Yeah, everybody's going, I get it. Exactly. So, okay, so coach, stop avoiding the objections and start thinking, how would I coach somebody through this? If I was really invested in making sure I was the coach that was there for them through this hard and challenging time, and I wanted to help them navigate it, and I was courageous, and I could hear them, I could ask the better questions, I could gain consent, and I can handle a no if they don't trust me yet, but I'm not going to just sit there in silence while they struggle when I have the power to help, right? So shout out if you're like fired up for a great week ahead for your coaching business, because I am. Shout out, I am if you are. Okay. Last superpower as a coach that you already have that helps you so much with marketing and sales is your ability to reflect things back. So one of the most powerful tools that you learn as a coach, as you're building your coaching capability and your coaching skills, is this mirroring. So it might sound like what I'm hearing you say is blah, 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 right? Or it seems like this is happening, or it sounds like that is happening, or it feels like that is happening, or it looks like that is happening. And so much of coaching is actually reflecting back to the client what they just said. Because I don't know, have you ever had that experience where you're talking with somebody and they say exactly what you mean, but somehow hearing it come from their words, it just locks in. You realize how true it is, really. And it's almost like you can react to it now because it's locked in. So often we have these ideas and we're thinking and our brain is going so fast and we're swirling with so many ideas all at once that we can't anchor to anything. So we can't make a decision about it, or we can't identify what the big block is about it because it's amorphous. Like we can't point to it because it's kind of like a blob, right? But when a coach or a friend or a therapist repeats back to you what you literally just said, there's this crystallizing that can take place where it's like, oh my God, oh yeah, yeah. And the truth is, you were the one that said it. You were the one with the insight. So reflecting back is a really, really powerful coaching capability. But let me take it a step further. When you coach a lot of people, you're going to start to hear the same limiting beliefs over and over and over again. You're going to hear the same capability gaps over and over and over again. You're going to hear the same assumptions over and over and over again. So, and it's going to be across calls. It's going to be across all your different coaching clients. You're going to keep hearing these patterns of what they're actually saying. What if you took those patterns and you just talked about the pattern in your marketing, right? This very lot. Is it cool if I get a little meta with you guys, right? Shout out meta if you just love little meta lessons, right? So meta being like you're in it and you're also observing it from the outside, right? So this very live where I was like, coaches just need to know that they already have like a lot of the skill set that is a prerequisite to being great at marketing and sales. Like they need to know that because nobody's telling them that. And how did I know that? I knew that because I've had so many client conversations with coaches just like you who are listening to this live. And I'm simply reflecting back the objections. I'm simply reflecting back the challenges. I'm simply reflecting back what you already have talked about with me, either in a private coaching conversation or it comes up in groups. The themes that I cover in my marketing, I never have to invent them. I never have to invent them. Have you guys ever heard that idea? I think it was Gary Vee that really popularized it, but capture, don't create, right? Document, don't create, right? And like what a relief, because I think a lot of coaches are bending over backwards, and I know I've fallen into this trap as well, where I'm just like bending over backwards of like, can I incorporate a crazy dance with this? Can I do something nuts to try to get attention? And I'm just going to let you in on a little secret. I hate dancing on TikTok. I've done it a couple of times just to test it out. It does work, but it's like not my favorite way to get attention and to connect. And I reserve the right to change my mind. I mean, like I've changed my mind about a million things in my business. So I reserve the right to change my mind, but I decided instead of doubling down on dancing or gimmicks or doing things that are meant to stoke the algorithm, I really doubled down on reflection as a strategy. Right? If you think that's really clever, let me know because I'll let you know the numbers bear it out. When I stopped trying to think of what to say and I instead just responded to what I've already responded to in a coaching call at some point, always protecting confidentiality, of course, always, speaking in general enough terms. But I stopped trying to create the content and instead I just repeated and reflected back. Right? And like, is this just like the craziest tactic you got on a Monday ever? Because seriously, there's so many people that are screaming literally from their car. I opened TikTok to check on some stats this morning, and the first reel I saw, or I guess it's a TikTok. It's not a reel. Whatever. You see how cool I am? Not cool. But like the first thing I saw was like use this audio and then use B-roll of yourself having your morning coffee to share content. And I love the spirit of that reel because what they're basically saying is keep it simple, silly pants. Like you do not have to be really crazy, wildly creative. But I was also just observing like this is a person sitting in their car having coffee and they're offering like a really simple little tip. And what they're doing is they're reflecting back to their audience who says, I don't know what to post. Right? I don't know what to post. I don't know what to come up with. And it was like, grab this sound, use this clip, and they made it really easy and instructional. Oh, yeah. So Lynn says this is how she gets the idea for her lives. Exactly. So how do you know what things to reflect back? That is a great question, possibly for another live. But I actually have built something super, super cool. And I want to know if you want it. So here's what it is. So many coaches are talking to me these days about messaging specifically. Like when they get a chance to talk with me privately, the thing that we always go to is my message clear? Is my message good? And I kept getting asked like, again, these tactics, man, ask better questions, right? Coach through the issues, reflect it back. So anyway, I'm getting asked all these messaging questions, right? And so I was like, I would love to have this conversation with more coaches more often. And so I've decided to put together a quiz that is asking, like, is my coaching message clear? Because if it's clear, you're going to have far more success than if you're trying to make it clever or if it's too vague. There's certain challenges that I've noticed in all of the conversations that I have with coaches that they have with their messaging. Now, here's what's really cool about this quiz. It's totally free. And at the end, you have a couple of things there. One, I just finished writing this messaging fix-it guide. So the guide is inspired by all of these conversations that I've been having. So you see like kind of a reflect back moment. So it's informed by everything, right, that I've been having conversations with my paying clients. But I would love to also give you a tool that will give you an assessment across 4 different criteria about your messaging clarity. So then you know exactly what area of messaging clarity you should focus on next to get the best possible outcome, right? So if you would love to be the first to get access to this quiz and to give it a crack, it's like very experimental on my part. I would love to know your thoughts about it. So feel free to send me a DM after you take it, but just let me know the word clear and I will send you the private link for this quiz. Like this is so new, right? You're getting it's a nice draft, but the very first draft of this quiz. And I'd love to know how it helps you, what results you're getting, how that's actually working out. Okay. So I'm just going to write down some names of people that are live with me here. So I see Lynn wants it. Deborah wants it. These are ladies in my private community that are live right this very second. Allison wants it. Okay, I got you. I got all of you. Okay, if you're watching this on Instagram or you're watching this on replay, you can reply or make a post in the Clients Over Chaos community and just say the word clear so that I know that that's exactly what you want. And if you have a coachy friend that you think would really benefit from the tool, feel free to share the link, right? I am looking for a few people to test it out, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do it. And after you're done, you're going to get a couple of things. One, you're going to get the messaging fix-it guide for coaches. But then the second thing, if you go through it and there's something very specific that you want to have resolved, on the other side of that, you'll be able to book a 20-minute messaging review free session. So that's also available. If you do it, you see the results, and you're like, help, there will be a link for you to be able to book for some help on your message. All right, with that, thank you so much for joining me today, and I will look forward to seeing you next Monday. I know some of you really love to plan ahead. Next topic on the docket. Next week, we're going to be talking about chaos to clarity. We're going to be talking about how do you build a business that's a pleasure to run. Because I think one of the biggest challenges that a lot of coaches get is they learn so many different tactics, so many different strategies. They sign up for a million things and they're trying to get traction with the business. And the only way to really be traction is to be both financially profitable and what I call time profitable. If you feel like you have to die on the hamster wheel of spending time on your business, you're not going to want to miss next week's live session, because I'm going to be breaking down for you what really and truly matters to success as a coach and blasting through the chaos. So I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. And until then, thanks for joining me this week. Last thing, if you want the replay to all of this, because I know I covered a lot, head over to the Clients Over Chaos community. Keyword is DWM if you want to send me a message and get a link to join.